Story 1. The Kind Stranger on a Lonely Highway. 2 summers ago, my wife Elena and I set off on a cross-country adventure from the Pacific Northwest to the East Coast for a long-awaited family reunion. We left our cozy home in Olympia, Washington on a bright June morning, our car overflowing with carefully packed snacks, handwritten maps, and an undeniable sense of wanderlust. The anticipation was palpable as the morning light danced over the dew-covered highways and the mountains in the distance. Elena and I enjoyed light conversation, reminiscing about past trips while eagerly discussing all the places we hoped to explore along the way. Our journey began on well-traveled highways lined with vibrant wildflowers and charming roadside attractions. The radio filled the car with our favorite oldies, setting a nostalgic mood, while the hum of the engine blended seamlessly with the singing of birds outside. Every mile brought us closer to Maple Grove, Oregon, a small, welcoming town where time seemed to slow down. After an 8-hour drive, punctuated by brief stops to admire scenic vistas, we arrived at a quaint inn. The inn, with its creaky wooden floors and a warm fireplace in the lobby, immediately felt like a safe haven where we could momentarily forget the road and its unpredictable challenges. The following day, still buoyed by the inn's hospitality and local legends shared by the friendly owner, we pressed on further. With the dashboard map spread before us, and Elena using her trusty vintage compass app, we veered off the interstate onto a lesser-known route. The narrow road twisted through ancient groves of towering pines and past meandering streams that shimmered under the fading daylight. By 10:30 p.m., as the shadows grew longer and the only illumination came from our car's headlights, we found ourselves on a quiet stretch of road where the silence was almost tangible. It was during these solitary moments that an unexpected scene unfolded. About 10 minutes into our journey on this desolate highway, I caught sight of a lone figure standing in the middle of the road. The elderly man, later known as Mr. Harlan, appeared vulnerable as he waved his arms in desperate greeting. I eased the car to a stop, the sudden deceleration causing Elena's hand to tighten around the door handle. When I rolled down the window a few inches, Mr. Harlan's voice, soft yet tinged with urgency, explained that his pickup had run out of gas on a remote side road. His tired eyes and trembling hands spoke of more than just a mechanical failure. They hinted at a life full of hardships and unforeseen circumstances. Despite the natural caution that surged through me, the combination of his humble plea and the eerie quiet of the night nudged us into action. Elena and I exchanged a silent glance, one that balanced empathy with a pinch of apprehension, and agreed to offer him a ride. Mr. Harlan climbed into the back seat with a series of grateful nods and heartfelt thanks that resonated with both of us. The drive to his farmhouse turned into a slow, reflective journey through a landscape that seemed to shift between serene beauty and latent danger. He pointed out landmarks along the way. A crooked oak that marked the spot of his last fuel stop, a moss-covered stone that had silently witnessed decades of change, and a weathered sign that spoke of a lost era. His sparse commentary was woven with a deep sense of nostalgia and regret, as if each landmark was a chapter in a long, storied life. Eventually, we reached a secluded stretch where the road narrowed further, and Mr. Harlan directed us onto a skinny, winding driveway that snaked through a grove of towering trees. The dense canopy overhead and the whisper of leaves in the night wind added an almost mystical quality to the surroundings. As we finally pulled into a small clearing that he claimed as his own, the momentary relief was quickly replaced by a prickling unease. No sooner had he stepped out than I noticed a subtle movement in the shadows behind the car. The sense of being watched grew stronger as dark figures began to emerge from the woods. In a flash, instincts kicked in. I floored the accelerator and reversed out of the driveway, as quickly as I could manage, the reality of the trap sinking in. That night, the memory of Mr. Harlan and the inexplicable figures lurking in the darkness taught Elena and me a valuable lesson. Sometimes, the desire to help must be tempered by an awareness of our own safety on the unpredictable roads. Story 2. The Sinister Convoy on the Dark Highways. Nearly a year later, on a chilly autumn day, I embarked on a long work trip from Seattle to Atlanta. The day had begun with a rhythmic pitter-patter of rain, the sky a constantly shifting tapestry of gray clouds. My departure was filled with the usual mix of determination and the quiet resignation that comes with long hours on the road. As I navigated the familiar city streets and merged onto the interstate, the vibrant hum of urban life slowly gave way to long, isolated stretches of highway. The early evening lights gradually dimmed as I drove further from civilization, leaving behind the comforting glow of street lamps and the murmurs of fellow travelers. Around 1 a.m., when I was approximately an hour and a half away from my destination, a strange sense of disquiet crept over me. While cruising steadily on the quiet road, I noticed a car in my rearview mirror that seemed to appear out of nowhere. At first, I dismissed it as just another traveler on a solitary night journey, but soon the details became disturbingly clear. The car was an old, dented sedan, its surface marred by time and neglect, and a strip of faded duct tape awkwardly covering one of its windows. But the most unsettling detail was the face of the driver, obscured by a crudely hand-painted skull mask. His eyes were hidden behind a mask that exuded a ghastly, almost spectral quality. Before long, what started as a single car revealed itself to be part of a larger, orchestrated presence. One by one, more vehicles appeared, each with its driver wearing the same eerie skull mask. The convoy's formation was unnervingly precise, their headlights forming an unbroken circle around me. The sense of isolation turned into stark terror as I realized that I was surrounded by a mysterious cabal of masked drivers. Every twist of the road seemed to draw them closer, their vehicles moving in unison, as if they had coordinated their approach for a singular purpose. My heart pounded with each passing second as I searched desperately for an escape route. The highway, once a symbol of freedom and endless possibility, now felt like a trap closing in on me. Just when hope seemed to wane, a narrow exit ramp appeared in the distance, a potential lifeline. I accelerated with a surge of adrenaline, hoping that the exit would break the relentless pursuit. As I took the ramp, the masked vehicles faltered momentarily, their formation disrupted by my sudden maneuver. However, a few of the cars managed to follow me onto the ramp, keeping pace with an almost supernatural determination. With my pulse still racing, I noticed a modest roadside diner up ahead, its neon sign flickering in the darkness like a beacon of safety. I steered into the parking lot next to a stationary police cruiser, the sight of law enforcement vehicles offering a fragile sense of protection. Inside the diner, the warm glow of overhead lights and the murmur of late-night conversations provided a stark contrast to the eerie highway I had just escaped. I hurried inside and recounted the bizarre sequence of events to an officer who listened with a mixture of skepticism and genuine concern. He promptly contacted additional patrol units, ensuring that the area would be monitored until I could safely continue on my journey. That surreal night left me with an enduring awareness of how quickly the familiar landscape of a highway can transform into a scene of nightmare, an experience that would haunt my future travels. Story 3. A harrowing night on a deserted road. Several months later, during a solitary cross-country move from Los Angeles to Chicago, I experienced an ordeal that remains seared into my memory. I was driving my aging, temperamental car, a vehicle that had seen countless miles and was now showing its age, on a scorching August evening. The relentless heat had turned the highway into a shimmering ribbon of light, and I had been on the road for nearly 10 hours, my mind wandering through a mixture of exhaustion and determination. Despite the sweltering conditions, I maintained a steady pace, confident that I was nearing the next phase of my journey. As dusk began to settle and the world outside transitioned from the harsh glare of the sun to the cooler hues of twilight, my car started to show signs of strain. The engine, which had been chugging along for hours, suddenly sputtered and eventually died with a final, reluctant sigh. It was around 9 p.m., and I found myself stranded on the side of a quiet, rural highway bordered by thick oak forests. The oppressive silence of the deserted road was shattered only by the occasional chirp of crickets and the distant rustle of leaves, creating an atmosphere of profound isolation. With a sinking feeling in my stomach, I stepped out of the car, hoping that a brief walk might reveal a signal on my phone. The humid night air was heavy with the scent of damp earth and the subtle tang of pine needles. I moved about 20 feet from the vehicle, squinting into the darkness in search of any sign of a cell tower. Instead, every sound and movement seemed amplified, as though the night itself was closing in around me. In the eerie stillness, I suddenly heard a soft, shuffling noise emanating from the woods, a sound that was far too deliberate to be that of a stray animal. My heart began to race as I caught sight of what appeared to be a pair of human legs moving stealthily behind a cluster of trees. Panic surged through me, and I rushed back to the car, bolting the doors in a desperate attempt to secure my small sanctuary against the unknown threat. I peered through the car window, my breath fogging the glass as I tried to discern any movement in the darkness. That's when I saw him, a disheveled man standing at the passenger's window. His unkempt hair and wild eyes, coupled with his shirtless, emaciated appearance, painted a picture of someone far removed from the norms of society. Without warning, he began to pound on the window with frantic, irregular beats that sent shivers down my spine. My mind raced, filled with a blend of fear and disbelief, as I struggled to comprehend why someone would approach a stranded car in such an unsettling manner. Just as I was reaching for my phone in a futile attempt to establish contact with the outside world, the sound of an approaching vehicle broke through the tension. Out of the enveloping darkness, a large pickup truck emerged, its headlights piercing the gloom with an almost guardian-like glow. The truck came to a stop behind my car, and a large, imposing man clad in a worn camel jacket leapt out. His calm, yet commanding presence immediately contrasted with the chaotic threat at my window. Before he could even fully articulate his offer of help, the intruder reappeared, this time brandishing a long, jagged stick and moving ever closer to my car in a deliberate manner. In a heartbeat that felt like an eternity, the burly stranger reached under his truck's seat and produced a handgun, its cold metal glinting in the dim light. His booming voice rang out, filled with authority, as he ordered the intruder to back off immediately. The sudden display of force, combined with the unexpected intervention, left the masked aggressor visibly shaken. With trembling hands and an air of defeat, he dropped the stick and raised his hands in surrender before retreating into the looming woods as silently as he had appeared. The helpful man from the truck handed me his phone with a reassuring nod, urging me to dial 911. With my hands still trembling, I managed to place the call, and within minutes, local law enforcement arrived on the scene. The officers moved quickly, securing the area and carefully gathering statements. While I sat there in my now silent car, I couldn't help but reflect on the surreal nature of the night, a collision of vulnerability, courage, and the unpredictable elements of the human condition. That harrowing night served as a stark reminder that sometimes, even when stranded in isolation, unexpected allies can emerge to restore a semblance of safety, teaching me to never take for granted the small acts of heroism that light the darkness.